Hello, everyone. I am so happy to be here with you today. I'm Amanda. I teach eighth grade English and drama in the Bay Area. I have a website, amandarightnow.com, and I actually recently published a blog post with my best tips for teaching using book clubs. And so today I am, and if you're in the comments, I see someone's here. I would love if you could introduce yourself. What grade do you teach? What's your favorite titles to teach using book clubs? And I'm gonna,
You're in the
oops,
comments. I see someone.
whoopsies. I'm just paying attention to the comments here. I need to mute my phone. So if you have any questions for me, feel free to comment as well or share some of your favorite books. So I am actually in the middle of a book club unit, and some of the books that I'm going to talk about today are books my students are reading right now. Not all of them, but some of them. It's hard because you need copies. You need copies of the books for your students to read, and that can always be kind of challenging, especially if your school doesn't really provide funds. And so my last Facebook Live, I talked about how I go to half price books and libraries and do donors choose projects. And plus my school has a lot of books available, which is awesome. We have like a book room. And I used to actually teach sixth grade, and I moved to eighth grade because I love the eighth grade books. But some of the books I'm going to be talking about are sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade, and I'll let you know what those are. And I also have a really awesome, I'll put a link in the comments after the broadcast, just a document with all my favorite book club books. And so I'll share that in the comments. It's just a Google Doc, and you can make a copy of it by clicking file, make a copy, and you can click and read about the books. So yeah, empathy. One of the reasons I love being an English teacher is because I feel like it's a subject area that really allows for us to teach about how to be a human. And if you haven't seen this video by Brene Brown called Empathy versus Sympathy, you should watch it. I actually just watched it for the first time and love it. I love it. And I'm going to show it to my students. So it's this cartoon, and Brene Brown did a talk or something, but it's animated. And so there's this fox, and the fox is upset about something. I can't remember what. The fox is upset, crying, sad. And there's a bear, and the bear is there, and the bear is crying with the fox, and they climb down a hole together, and the bear is there the whole time feeling what the fox is feeling, and that's empathy. And then a moose, I think, comes along. I'm sorry if I'm ruining this for you all. You should go watch it. Maybe I'll put a link to that in the comments too. But the moose comes along, I think, or reindeer, and kind of ducks into the hole and just says, well, at least this, like trying to look on the bright side of things and not really being willing to climb down there with the other animals, the fox and the bear. And I just love that analogy of the difference between empathy and sympathy. Like sympathy is kind of, it's feeling kind of sorry for someone and kind of moving on a little bit. Like you have sympathy, like you feel bad for them, whereas empathy is feeling bad with them and like just feeling what it feels like to be in that situation, or I wanted, that cliche saying, in the person's shoes. And I think I actually just recently, I will get to the books in a minute, but I just recently discovered this amazing woman. She's a Buddhist nun. And I'm going to be doing more Facebook Lives about her because I'm so shocked how few people have heard of this woman. Her name is Pema Chodron. And I just read one of her books, and it's called When Everything Falls Apart. And I'm actually reading another book by her, and she has a YouTube channel, Pema Chodron. She has a YouTube channel, and I'm also reading a book called Unstuck. And she, like I said, she's a Buddhist, and she talks about in When Everything Falls Apart, and I've talked to my students about this before too, and this does relate with empathy, that being a human is painful, and that humans, we tend to, it's human nature, and it's actually not just humans, it's all animals, that we tend to seek pleasure and avoid pain, and that's natural. That's a natural thing that we all do. But when we are constantly running away from pain, when we're constantly kind of sweeping it to the side and not, feeling it and giving it some space. And I meditate, that's my cat. And I meditate, and I'm really like on this path to discover like how I really feel about things, and how to slow down and think before I act, and pay attention to my thoughts. And that we as humans, it's a learned, we have to learn how to not just avoid pain and numb pain with words, with Netflix, with social media, with, whatever, food. I use food. I love sugar. And I will admit it, I'm an emotional eater, and I, like, for years and years and years, I eat when I'm stressed out, and it's like, it makes you feel better temporarily. And so Pima Chodron is really talking about how we can really, how pain is actually really powerful, and that we can learn from it and we can grow from it. And these books, every book that I'm going to talk about today involves kids going through pain, right? Every piece of literature out there is pain. It's conflict. Every Netflix show that you watch, it's pain, it's conflict. Humans are drawn to these, like, these harsh realities of being just our condition. And I think, talking to kids about, like, what, day-to-day life is painful. And look at, like, these kids and these books and these authors that are writing about these painful experiences, and just feeling it. And, like, have you ever asked a student, like, have you ever cried while reading a book? That is empathy. You're practicing empathy. If you cry, if you feel anything, if you get goosebumps, if you get angry about the way that a character is treating another character, you're feeling empathy. So the first book that I'm going to talk about is called Save Me a Seat by Sara Weeks. This is a great book, especially if you have, like, students, like an Asian population, students from India. And it's a great book for 6th through 8th grade. So it's about 2 kids at a school, and it has multiple plot lines. So one kid is Ravi and the other one is Joe. And they don't think they have anything in common. And they both kind of have to deal with the school bully, really. And it's all about, like, being misunderstood and, like, feeling alone and isolated. And it's awesome because eventually these 2 characters meet in the end. And it's a really, really wonderful book. It's short. And like I said, this could be 5th grade, honestly. But this is a great book for students to read and to talk about, and to, like, feel what it feels like to be isolated in your school, and not be, and, like, to go to the lunchroom and not have anyone to sit with. It's just such a good book. Look at the cover. So this is Joe's lunch, and this is Ravi's lunch. And it's such a good book. So that's my first recommendation. The next one, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it. It's called Freak the Mighty. This is one of my all-time favorite books. Again, it's about friendship. It's about being an outcast. It's about just the, like, feeling. So there's 2 characters, Max and Freak, and I can't remember what Freak's real name is. His name is not Freak, but that's, like, his nickname. And just, so Freak is disabled. He can't use his legs. And Max is huge. And he has trouble in school, and he feels really, not smart, and he's in a special class, and it's just about how their friendship develops. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful story that kids, and I actually have eighth graders reading this book in one of the book clubs, and kids love this book. They really, really do love this book. The next one is The Skin I'm In. Kids love this book too. This one is about Malika. It's interesting. All of these books are about kids in schools feeling isolated. And I feel like so many kids these days feel isolated, and to be able to read and see themselves reflected in books is so powerful and important for kids. So this is about Malika, and like just she's in a group of she has a group of friends, but they're not real friends, and they're really mean to her, but yet she keeps going back and she keeps hanging out with them, and she's very quiet, and it's just and then she gets this teacher named Miss Saunders who has some like discoloration on her face, and Miss Saunders is so confident and strong, and Malika kind of learns how to find her strength in the book. So this is a great book for book clubs for your students. Boy 21. Okay, of all the books I've talked about so far, this is the most popular book among my students. So they just love this book. And it's about Finley and Russ. Russ is Boy 21, and Russ had something very traumatic happen to him, and he before this traumatic event, he was just this excelling basketball player. Just people were like knew of him because he was so good, and then all of a sudden this traumatic thing happened to him, and he shuts down, and he like people think he's crazy because of just how he acts. He thinks he's an alien. He thinks everyone's aliens. He thinks all these things about space. And Finley, Russ moves to Finley's town, and Finley's coach kind of gets him to befriend Russ. And so Finley's going through his own stuff. And so they're both very different, and they're kind of, there's this competitive part. And so lots of basketball stuff, girl stuff. This is more of like an 8th grade book. Wouldn't recommend this for like 6th. And this one too, this one's probably more of a 7th, 8th grade book. Okay. And then Fish in a Tree. This is a wonderful book. And actually when I read this book, I feel more empathy and compassion for my students that struggle with reading, because it's about Allie, and Allie's basically hiding from her family, from her entire school, the fact that she can't read. And I think she's in like 5th or 6th grade in this book. I can't remember. But it's just like how torturous it is for her to go to school and to keep this secret for so long, and that she puts on this shield that like of strength, and like she's like kind of she gets in trouble. She gets sent to the office all the time, and she would rather people think of her as, you know, this kid that's a troublemaker than have people know that she can't read. And then this substitute comes along and kind of changes her life. And some good stuff happens. It gives me chills. This book is awesome for kids to read in book clubs. Okay. And then this book is probably the book that I cried the most reading. And I'm sure many of you have heard of it. It is Wonder. I still have not seen the movie yet, but oh my gosh, I read this book like right after I had my daughter. And so if you've read it before, you know the beginning is the mom has Augie, and Augie, his face is not right, and just she sees so much beauty in his eyes. And I don't know, this book is like by far my favorite book ever to teach empathy, because I think a lot of the kids just love Augie, love who he is as a person, and love his family, and it's so sad that, you know, like we judge people so much, and like we're terrified of people who look different, and we don't approach people who look different, and to, you know, to go beyond that fear and to like try and become friends with someone who might have a disability or might look a little different. That's a big thing. That's a big thing for a human or a kid to do. And I feel like this book gives kids permission, you know, and like inspiration to cross that line, you know? So this is about Augie, and I'm sure many of you have heard of it before. So yeah, those are like my favorite book club books. I hope that I inspired some of you to maybe read them or use them in your classrooms. And you should definitely check out Pima Chodron, because she's wonderful too. Okay, I will leave my links to the other books, because there's many other books that I love, in the comments. And I think I said maybe I'll leave a link to Pima Chodron's YouTube channel. And I think I was going to leave something else, but I can't remember. The blog post, the book club blog post. So thanks for joining me. I will be back next Tuesday. Bye, everyone.